Now pay attention, 007. I've always tried to teach you two things. First, never let them see you bleeding.
And the second?
Always have an escape.
Hello everyone, Christopher Morales, that one Bond guy with an exciting conversation for you all. You guys have seen it all over Instagram. It's the hottest new novel, spy novel that has danced across the screens and pages. And the story behind it, how it came to be, is inspirational. One that I really wanted to share with you guys here in the channel. So this gentleman I've known for quite a few years now, and he comes from a background of keynote speaking as well as other best-selling author for many, many years. He literally is James Bond, but without the villains. With no further ado, I'd love to introduce to you Mr. Rowan Gibson, the author of A Spy Ever After, Nathan Rock's full-length adventure novel. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Chris. Great to be here again with you.
Yes. Last time we were on a bonding hour where we were discussing what you were really initially going out to set out and go for, and how it kind of you were inspired by Fleming himself to have a voice, and it ultimately ended us here talking about a new character, an organic new character named Nathan Rock.
No, it's an interesting story, and actually I was talking of inspiration. I was inspired just a couple of days ago listening to a video or watching a video with Steven Spielberg, and he was telling the story of how he wanted to direct a Bond movie, and he'd reached out a couple of times to Eon, to Cubby Broccoli and Co, and he'd offered his services. You know, I want to direct a Bond movie, and they turned him down. And he said, you know, after Jaws, I thought, okay, they're really going to want me now. So they said no. And then after Close Encounters, he went back again and they said no. And so what did he do? He went off with George Lucas and he created Indiana Jones. You know, so in the end, these things become a blessing in disguise. So I started Bond Inspiration a couple of years ago on Instagram. And the goal was simply to do some storytelling, a little bit inspired by or in the style of Fleming, because I'm a huge fan of his writing. And it took off, you know, so I started telling these stories, and people like yourself gave me some wonderful response and engagement. And then there was a moment where it kind of peaked, and Ian Fleming Publications, so the owners of the the literary rights to James Bond, they ran a post on Instagram and they said, tell us what you want, you know, as a Bond community. What do you want us to do? What kind of books would you like from us? And I think they had about 90 comments on the post. And out of the 90 comments, about 85 of them said Bond inspiration, Bond inspiration, Bond inspiration, over and over and over. And it was just like, this is what we want. We want books that are like, you know, Rowan is the stories that Rowan is telling on Instagram. That's what we want. And I obviously, like Steven Spielberg, I hope that they would say, great, okay, let's get in touch with Rowan there. And they did, but they got in touch for another reason. They sent me a legal cease and desist letter to tell me to stop. So,
I remember that day because it was almost 3 days. Yeah, right. Almost 3 days or a week after we did our bonding hour. And it was so exciting to have a conversation about somebody from the Bond community who's inspired by Fleming, who's a great writer, loves writing, and you can obviously see the passion, have a voice. And you were doing an amazing job in your own creative way, documenting that on Instagram, and everybody obviously loved it. And at a point of which they were really hoping to see the community come and thrive, you know, you get this. And I had a great conversation. Next thing we know, you know, you're letting me know, fortunately, I got this letter, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? And normal, I can say this now because Eon's not in charge. Normal Eon fashion, they decide to shoot down something that potentially could have been great and further the literary Bond saga. But, you know, things happen for a reason. Am I right?
They do. I mean, to the point, I obviously replied and I said, well, I'm doing this for free. I think that what I'm doing is promoting Fleming, actually. It's a real homage to Fleming. And I think it's encouraging people to go back and read the books again. So I'm trying to tie in details from the books and so on. But they didn't want to know. So so just like Steven Spielberg going off to create a wonderful character, Indiana Jones. I decided to. Well, I could have stopped, right? I mean, I think we emotionally, you sort of feel like I've hit a wall here. And you've met your heroes, and your heroes have turned you down. But instead, I felt that no, I need to carry on, and I need to create my own protagonist, and that's Nathan Rock. And it's been a blessing in disguise, because the excitement of creating your own world, the freedom to do what you want to do with Nathan Rock. I mean, I don't have to go back and ask, what is he supposed to wear? What is he supposed to drive? Are there things he can do and he can't do? And so I don't have to do that. So it's been a wonderful experience to just let the imagination run free and
I love that.
create that world. Yeah.
I love that. So that kind of brings me to the first question. Obviously, now you have published the first full-length novel, one of many that I've heard through the pipeline that may be coming across our libraries here. But of course, you were inspired by the character of James Bond and, of course, Ian Fleming. What's the differences you can tell me between Nathan Rock in comparison to Bond?
Yeah, I think that obviously it's inspired by the classic hero, right? I mean, just as Fleming wanted to have St. George and the Dragon, the hero's journey. It's inspired by the same kind of classic roots, of a hero, just as Indiana Jones is, or any of those other characters. But I think that obviously what I've done is I've avoided the Bond tropes. So what we don't get is Nathan Rock in a casino, and Nathan Rock ordering a dry martini shaken not stirred, and all of those things that all the Walter PPK. Partly because that's the deal with the Ian Fleming publications. You can't use the James Bond name, and neither can you use any of the characteristics. So what I've done is, Nathan Rock works for MI6, right? So there's a similarity, but he doesn't work for the 00 section. He works for a unit called X Alpha, which has 10 operatives, and hence the X. And it is a direct descendant of the SOE, which was the Special Operations Executive after the Second World War. So what I've tried to do is root it in reality. There is no M. As a matter of fact, they don't call the leader of MI6 M. The code name is C. It always has been C, after Cummings, who was the first. So I have made those kinds of changes. And also there's no Q branch and there's no Q. I have a thing called ACE Division, which is Advanced Covert Engineering, which is a wonderful thing to have, because it sometimes gets you out of situations. Like, okay, if you don't know what would happen or how, okay, just leave it to ACE Division. They'd certainly come up with some way of him doing that. So in a recent story, I had Nathan Rock parachuting out of a plane across the North Sea. And the mission is to land on the rooftop of top deck of a cruise ship, which is very, very difficult. It's a giant cruise ship, right? But it's very difficult to do. So I came up with a little gadget that Ace Division, gave him. But so those are some of the differences. But I think that Nathan Rock to me is kind of a mix of what we had earlier on with Sean Connery, maybe a little bit of Pierce Brosnan, that kind of hero type. Less brooding than Fleming's literary Bond. So he doesn't really have time to sit around with the introspection and so on. And certainly not the kind of thing that we began to see with Daniel Craig, with the long lost stepbrother and all that kind of stuff. But I think that it certainly does have that little bit of that humor that we have from the movies. So one of the things that was great about Bond right at the beginning, and they carried that through, it became a little bit farcical, like too funny with Roger Moore. But that dry humor of Sean Connery actually has its roots in the British military, because if you know those military types, they do have a kind of gallows humor, So I wanted to bring that element into Nathan Rock as well. So it's very British, very, very. I think certainly less of the eye candy girls and lots of girlfriends and things like that. There's a female character in the story in this book, but it's certainly not the way that you'd have it treated by the Bond movies.
See, what I absolutely love about your storytelling is how you draw from your real life experiences, the research that you've done to provide not just visually, descriptively, but you could literally pull up a map and point out exactly where Nathan Rock was or is going to be on this next mission. And I think that's a special talent that you have. I know it's extremely hard work, but it also brings to the table the validity of the novel, and I think it's a little bit better than trying to, like, Fleming does a great job of describing his books, and I think that's what all inspires us and to inspire the films and stuff like that. But it gets to a point where, yeah, the campiness is fun and all, and the girls and the tropes are fun, but sometimes we need to go back to what's real and what's raw and what actually happens through those operations almost in real life. If you make it a bit more realistic, then you can actually relate. That he's not going to survive the mission because of a special laser beam that comes out of his watch that Q Branch made. He actually has to survive the mission because he needs to use his real life skills that he was trained in this real life division. Another thing I do really love too, and I know many of you guys watching might have or might not have been able to attend the pre-book launch, which you hosted. I believe it was 3 times that you hosted for the different time zones.
There were 2. There's one for Europe, one for the Americas.
Right, that's right. And you did an amazing presentation of what to expect in the book, where you got inspired from. Of course, shout out to your amazing wife who helped you along the way.
Yes.
It was amazing, and I absolutely love how you've been reaching out to the fans and to the community. So for this whole production of this novel, Nathan Rock is a character, my hat's off to you. It's really inspiring for a content creator to see somebody like yourself who's also a content creator but put his passion and put it out into the world. So hats off to you for that. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Chris. No, I think obviously those of us that have a passion for Bond have a different nuance in that passion. So some people love the cars, some people love the movies, some people love the books, some people love the games, some people love the watches, the clothes, so we've all got our basic thing. And I'm very drawn to the literary side of things. Fleming's original books, which I've read over and over and over, multiple. In fact, I would. It's not an exaggeration to say I've probably read every single one of those books about 15 times.
Wow.
Yeah. So I like you. I love the detail that Fleming gives us. It's not just an airplane, but he describes the engine of the airplane or whatever. So, for example, in the book, when Nathan Rock goes back to London, he goes to MI6. He doesn't actually drive into MI6. He drives to the building next door. And it's called Camelford House. It's a real office, and it turns out that X Alpha is sort of under the ground, really, between Camelford. But those things are real. Or when I talk about Ace Division, it's not just some crazy thing like Q Branch. It's based in the real. There's a place in the UK called Hanslope Park, which is where the real Q Branch of MI6 is located. That's where they make all of the spy stuff, all the tradecraft tools, etc., and have been making it since the Second World War. So again, when I talk about a thing, Ace Division or The Office or whatever else, everything, as you say, is there. You can go and check this stuff out.
I love that. And it's the fact that you back it up with the exact stuff that makes it so much more enjoyable. You really feel like you're immersed in the novel because of it. So kind of rounding everything together, this is the first book, and I imagine there may be something in the works for perhaps a trilogy, maybe. But for now, what is something that you want to leave your readers with? If you could give, well, I will do this. What's something you want to leave or make sure your readers grasp on with this character of Nathan Rock and A Spy Ever After? And some advice to those who want to kind of follow in your footsteps, Fleming's footsteps, and be creative in the aspect and the realm of the literary world of spycraft and espionage.
Well, good long double-sided question there.
I have one tries.
Yeah. No, I think certainly somebody said they get to the last page of the book and it leaves them wanting more Rock. more Nathan Rock. And so that's the best thing that I could ask for really is that the book gives you a tremendous 2 or 3 days or a week or whatever it is of entertainment where you feel like I can't put this book down. That's what I've been hearing from people. I've gotten used to making cliffhangers. When I write the Instagram episode.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They
at times.
so I've become pretty good at that. So there's a lot of cliffhangers in the book. So when you get to the end of a chapter, there's a cliffhanger. I've got to read the next chapter, then read the next chapter. So Fleming said the goal is that as a reader that you keep turning the page. So that's what I hope that you do, and that you get to that last page and you want more Nathan Rock. You want a follow-up, you want a trilogy, or you want 10 or 12 or 13 books like Fleming gave us. And yes, I am working already on my sequel, if you will, to A Spy Ever After. And there's a little clue at the end as well. I did a kind of like a Marvel thing, like with the Marvel movies where they have that thing after the credits, where you see a little bit of film and it tells you something about what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I have an epilogue that again, that kind of like leaves you wanting more. So that's what I'd like to get from it. And then advice for those that that want to write, express themselves, through writing. Certainly, don't try to write a Bond novel. Because you will be stopped by the whack-a-mole machine. I did actually. I got that advice from Raymond Benson. I'd reached out to him about a couple of years ago and said I wanted to write a Bond novel. And he said, "Don't do it." So that's my advice now. I can tell you from my own experience. Don't try to write a Bond novel, but certainly come up with your own character and do what you would want to see Bond do. Like create some heroic adventure and put your character in that adventure. I'm having a lot of fun now thinking about the next book. I want this to be a kind of like, we went to see Star Wars. I'm a bit older than you, Chris. So when I say Star Wars, I'm talking about the first ever Star Wars, which you would call Episode 4.
Gotcha.
But when we went back and we saw The Empire Strikes Back, it just blew us away. I mean, like if you thought Star Wars was good, The Empire Strikes Back was just like on another level. That's what I want to do with the next book. So yeah, that's something to. I would just say keep going, do your own thing. Please avoid any Bond IP because you will be, attacked. But if you can set up a compelling character, just go ahead and do your thing, and just also try to learn from the community in terms of what it is people want. I mean, give you an example. David Zaritsky has been saying for years about the movies, just send Bond on a mission. Like, I don't want to know about his stepbrother or his auntie or his uncle or his like traumas. Just send him on a mission like we did in the old days. So I think he's really got a good point. So that's what I want to do with Nathan Rock. I just want to send this guy on exciting, adventurous missions and have him save the day.
Absolutely love that. That is exciting. And I, for one, can say, since I've kind of been around, or at least we've known each other from the start of this whole adventure, how honored I am to continue to promote, talk about, be a part of, and just indulge in all things Nathan Rock. And my friend, this has been amazing to just get to know you better over the years and just have that piece of, well, it's been keeping us thirsting for more Bond, yes, but satisfying since we've had this huge, gigantic, and still huge, gigantic void of Bond official content.
Yeah.
And again, it's a testament to the creativity in the Bond community, and you, sir, are definitely one of the most creative. I don't want to give away too much, but I'm going to link everything in the description below, your Instagram, and then the link to the Amazon page where you can purchase the novel, of course. But there's also something very exciting that's tied to this novel. It has its very own title track, and I'm not going to spoil any of it. I'm going to link it below so you, after this video, can go take a listen because it is it's amazing. That being said, hey, thanks for the chat, my friend, and I cannot wait to see more about Nathan Rock, and you'll have to keep us updated on more adventures.
I certainly will.
Everybody, again, everything will be in the link below. Thank you for watching this episode. A great discussion around A Spy Ever After, a novel by our very own Bond community member, great dear friend of mine, Mr. Rowan Gibson. So everyone, take care, be safe, and I will see you on the next video. I'm Christopher Morales, that one Bond guy.